few things. Are you going to present any audiovisual content?
I am going to be present audiovisual content. So I need to present this, but not the whole thing. So I will play it with VLC and I'll just show a small clip. Let me just cue the clip and I'll minimize the window.
So is this film already available on YouTube or any other media platform?
You know, it is. The other one is not.
Okay.
So
So
I was
we'll
telling.
just black out the screen and with the message that we cannot show this content for a while just because of the copyright and other things.
Yeah, you might have to. The other one.
We are already prepared with all those things because we know there are copyright things and the things that the speaker don't want to share to the audience present in digital media. So we have prepared everything. So when you will be showing the audiovisual content, we'll just black the screen and with the message on YouTube. Okay, ma'am?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Oh,
you.
so it's going live, is it?
Yeah, it is going live. That is
Okay.
live. We have to be prepared beforehand. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I request everyone to please be seated. We'll start soon. I repeat, I request everyone to please be seated. I request the audience to put their phones on silent mode, please. Requesting all of you to please settle down. Good afternoon, everyone. I, Sakshi Ratava, UG second year student of School of Communications, XIM University, heartily welcome you all to the second session of today's event. As spoken by the one himself, Animation can explain whatever the mind of man can conceive. The facility makes it the most versatile and explicit means of communication, yet devised for quick mass appreciation, said Walt Disney, the best-known animator in the world. His name is almost always associated with animation. There is no better way to learn about animation as a medium for mass communication than from a real animation director. As the theme says, Animation Filmmaking, the future perspective, we have Miss Anita Balachandran, a well-known animator and illustrator, here with us. Her films have received international acclaims and screenings. She is a true animator and artist. We are eager to hear from you, ma'am. I now request Ms. Dikshita De from MA final year to moderate the session.
Thank you, Sakshi. I hereby take the privilege and delight of welcoming our honorable guest speaker for the session, the award-winning animation filmmaker and illustrator, Ms. Anita Balachandran. Adept at a diverse interdisciplinary practice of combining animation with research, content development, and illustration, Ms. Balachandran has worked on a range of projects involving education and awareness for clients including the Government of India, UNESCO's institutions, the Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage, the University of Lancaster, the International Union for Scientific Study, Population, etc. Her critically acclaimed short films, including Saree and Flood of Memory, have been screened, acknowledged, and awarded internationally at several festivals, including Frankfurt and Zagreb. Her artistic practice of creating experimental animated documentaries that interpret memories and oral histories using drawing, collage, and stop motion has been supported with grants and fellowships from the India Foundation for the Arts, Pro Helvetia, the Swiss Arts Council, the Helen Hamlin Trust UK, the International Society for Animation Studies, and AEF-ASIFA Hollywood. She has also been commissioned to create interpretative films for exhibitions at public, historical sites, museums across India, some of which include the displays at Gandhi Smriti, New Delhi, the Reis Margot's Fort in Goa, etc. Ms. Balachandran is currently working at the Board of India chapter of the International Association of Women in Radio and Television, and we are delighted to have her here with us today for a discussion on the topic, Animation Filmmaking, the Future Perspective. A hearty welcome to you, ma'am. Over to you.
Hi, okay. I have to warn you in advance that I have a piece of paper because my brain tends to turn to cabbage when I have to speak to lots of people. So you'll have to excuse me for occasionally sort of disappearing into my paper. But yeah, good morning. It's really lovely to see you all. I'm really very honored to be here. And you know, when we were driving in, I didn't know where I was headed to, and it was such a brilliant surprise to see your campus. It's amazing. And yesterday I had a walk around the studios, and they were amazing. And you know, and in the evening I realized it was very warm, but you know, it's beautiful and picturesque and unpolluted. It's my first visit to Odisha, and it's, you know, I really feel like wow. And anyway, I have to say that also, you know, being here, it reminds me of when I was a student, and you know, all the sorts of hopes and worries and ambitions that I had. And when I look back to that time of life, it feels really precious because it feels like the time that you're the most free. You know, and there's this sort of opportunity that you have to explore your passions, to make mistakes, to fix them, and to really discover who you are and what you want to do. Okay, so, you know, when I was young, I always liked drawing. I liked making pictures. And I wanted to be an artist. And, you know, my father said to me, my father worked in SBI, and he said to me, you have to be very rich to be an artist, you know. It doesn't work the other way around. So, you know, so with, you know, this sort of thing in mind, I said, okay, I want to do my art, but I realized I had to fund it somehow. So I am an independent animation practitioner and a filmmaker, but I also work as a professional practitioner of animation, and I make stuff for clients. I realize that I'm sort of really the counterpoint to an industry point of view. I'm not really part of a company or a large institution, but I get hired as a consultant to work for institutions and for people in general. So so I have these two parallel tracks that I follow. I make films which frankly are for myself. They are self-initiated and they're things, and I make them because I love to make films. And then I also have a professional practice. As Dikshita mentioned, I make films, I do illustration, and I do a fair amount of research as part of the latter. Okay, so, I don't know if, when I did animation, we learned the basic principles as you must have done, and I learned software as well. I have to say at that point in time, it was not a lot of software, but I realized as time went along that the thing that I really wanted to do was to draw. That was where my passion lay, in creating drawn movement. And I also enjoy working with tangible things, with getting my hands dirty. So, like if I sit in front of a computer too long, I start to fidget. I like to work with I don't know if anyone else is like that. Like I can't deal beyond the first half an hour, 45 minutes, I have to do something. So that's how I create. But when I was a student, discovering that I wanted to draw, to move, it really gave me focus. It really gave me a reason to do what I was doing. And I don't know, I really think it's really important to find that thing that you really feel crazy about, bonkers about, that you could do every day. It helps to know what it is. It can really become the sharpest point of both your creative and professional practice. Of course, there's a great deal that technology can do. Increasingly, I think with VR and in fact with AI, I don't know if anyone's tried Mid-Journey and made pictures. It's incredible what you can do with technology. But I feel like the challenge is really to go beyond technical mastery and to kind of make those softwares your own, to kind of blend processes and techniques and to do something really original with it. And you'll discover this as you go along. As you're hired as an animator, there comes a point when people are trying to pick between, who do they want to hire, and really it becomes significant what you can bring to the table, that you have abilities beyond the technical, that you have conceptual abilities, that you can tell stories, that you can put them together. And that you have a distinctive style. The aim, I think, and it's good to kind of hold on to that idea, is how to make people feel. That's what we're trying to do, right? Every time you move something, you're trying to get the person who's watching to either smile or frown or be puzzled or be surprised. While the question of draftsmanship is an important one, it's kind of, I think, it has to be seen in perspective. So you also want to be able to be an author. When I finished college, I had a lot of friends who went into the industry and they specialized in either being particular 2D artists or 3D artists. Some of them became producers. And I have to say that over time, everybody also wanted to do their own thing. They found they had things to say beyond their jobs. They found that it was an important aspect of themselves and their work to also be able to express their ideas. So, whether you you sort of want to make your own films like me and you want to get grants to do it, or whether you perhaps want to be the creative director of a team, or you want to kind of really, lead people who, a bunch of people, or even in a company that is making creative things, it's really helpful, strangely, to chase your own ideas as well. So I went around yesterday, and when I was looking around, I noticed that, there were all these posters up, that documentaries that had been made here, and it was really lovely to see. And I thought to myself that, I might share with you the fact that what I make are animated documentaries. So I'm going to show you, bad at flipping slides, but yeah, experimentation, do experiment. I think that's where the future of animation lies, really in trying to break those boundaries and trying to do things that mix the hand wrought and the digital. Yeah, push yourselves, get up from the computer, try and do things differently, and really it'll take you far. But yeah, documentary. So I think when I began to make documentaries, it's a real question as to how animation might be used to do that. It's something that people are increasingly doing, and I'm going to show you a little bit, a small clip of from a film I made, animating sand. So of course, it's composited with live action. I won't show you the whole thing, I'll just show you a little bit so you have a sense of the treatment. Yeah? So the sand is moved directly under the camera frame by frame, and then it's composited with live action. The film that I'm showing you is called Flood of Memory, and I interviewed some survivors of a flood in Rajasthan, in Barmer, and it seemed to me quite strange and paradoxical that a flood should happen in the middle of a desert. So I used sand for the animation. And there was this one person called Tina Lal who told me about his family. So you will see him briefly, and I'll play you a little clip so you can see how sand animation might work. Is there sound? I think there are things you can still do with the hand that you can't with a machine. There's a certain trace of yourself that is left, that is imprinted. Animation has this special ability to catch it and to kind of really beguile audiences with it. So, I teach part-time at the Shrishti Manipal Institute, and we often get students to try and do that, to do stuff with their hands and with the machine, and to try and put it together to see where it gets them. I think when I first began practicing commercially, there was this idea that animation was for kids, and I also did a lot of illustration. So some of the first jobs that I got was doing animations for people who wanted to do something for children in the space of museums and so on. So it became something that, for instance, I think one of the early things that I did was I did little animated films for exhibitions in Delhi at the National Museum and the Supreme Court Museum. I think there's more and more of that happening now, particularly because we have the idea of interpretation. People bring loads of school kids and they want to kind of explain what's happening to them because, school kids are really the primary visitors to museums and heritage sites. And so it is a really, really emergent and I would say thriving industry. In Bangalore, we have this company called Ririti that does a lot of stuff. And it's something which, it's quite interesting really, because if you do make site-specific installations, it's really fun to go and see what kids are doing with it, and their reactions are really honest. So if they don't like it, they'll just be like, huh, and nobody's going to be polite with you there. It's great to go and see. It's like a full, unvarnished feedback session. So it's a wonderful thing. But the other, as time went along, people began to feel that it didn't necessarily have to be only for kids. So I did a bunch of films. I think I did about 15 or so for Gandhi Smriti. There's an exhibition there called the Eternal Gandhi Museum. It's on the first floor of Gandhi Smriti. For those of you who've been there, Gandhi Smriti is the site of M.K. Gandhi's assassination. He lived there before he passed away. And after he did, it turned into a museum. So it has a certain sort of gravitas, that site, as you visit it, because it was actually the place. And the Multimedia Museum, most of it is upstairs. I'm going to show you a film from one installation that was downstairs. And I think it's the first thing that you see as you enter. So if you were to walk in through the gates, you see it projected on the wall behind you. I'll show it to you. Okay, once again, if you're wondering how it was made largely using drawing. You can watch it and I'll tell you a little bit more about how it came together. It's a very short film. It has no words. And it was just meant to be about his last walk. And also, as you can imagine, it's quite a sort of politically charged place, right? So I had to tread a very careful line as I was making it. But take a look. It has a piece of music you might recognize. It's a Kabir bhajan called Ud Jayega Hans Akela, which was performed by the late Kumar Gandharv. Okay, so typically, if you feel like you might be the sort of person that's interested in research and in direction, and you want to make animation, but a little hatke, it's a good industry to try and break into culture and heritage. You have to do a lot of research, though. So, for instance, making that film, I'm given a ton of photographs, of paintings, of pictures, and usually there are committees of people that will approve your work. So you have to kind of really be, at the one hand, a journalist like some of you and put it together. You have to be a graphic designer, you have to be an artist, you have to be an animator as well. And then I think there's also the sort of very real world connection which public institutions have with people, right? So if you're going to make stuff that is for public institutions, then you also really do have to understand how people feel and what they want. It's an unconventional sort of exercise in PR and marketing and understanding how it's working, but it's quite enriching to do. Increasingly, I think the government is, we have a lot of STEM-based science museums these days. A lot of them are being planned, really beautiful high-tech ones. So I think there are a lot of projects in that area. A lot of, I think they involve a lot of 3D, a lot of simulations, a lot of creating of virtual environments, of VR. So there's a lot of work in that area. It's very exciting. It's really, really exciting. I find that more than encountering animation on just a screen, it's really going to a site and seeing what you can do and how you can make people feel and respond. It's super. Okay, so that's one part of my practice, and I feel like if I was to think about the sort of way in which we might think going forward, what really is important, I think, is collaboration. If you're, I don't know, some of you must have been like me. I hated working with other people when I was a student. I really didn't like it. It was a total nuisance. I like to be in my own cave. I like to make things and remake them and re-remake them and then emerge when I felt satisfied with them. Yeah? And then I hated having arguments and having to sort of give in and take on other people's points of view. But it is the most critical skill ever, is to collaborate as an animator. I know some of you feel like you want a purely technical job, and it will be great. It gives you a real rush to kind of master software, to know what it does, and to, obviously to be someone who is at the cutting edge of technology. But you will find at some point, or you may find at some point, that you also want to be the storyteller. You also want to be part of the team that's kind of crafting the whole adventure, rather than just making it. You need to kind of think about how you're going to position yourself. Particularly if you find that you want to encounter the industry as a freelance consultant. I think Amitabh was absolutely right. He said you have to be clear about what you want to do. You will find animation jobs everywhere, in gaming, in architectural offices. You will find them, people want in UI, UX, and in interactive apps. You will find people who want to make e-learning modules. You will find people who are making stuff for kids, nursery rhymes. Like, the range is intense and amazing and incredible. But it is very important to know where you want to go. What excites you? What drives you? What will you be able to kind of do again and again? And what do you feel is enriching? He's not here right now, but he said, Amitabh said something about being in your 30s and earning money. I totally didn't do that. I think I had my full moment of wanting to change the world, so I did a whole bunch of I worked with activist groups and NGOs, and I made videos and illustrations for people in villages and underprivileged groups and all sorts of things. In my 20s and 30s, I was quite literally that person who had a jhola bag and tried to do those, had chappals and, I went out and tried to change the world. So I did a lot of things for free, in fact. But I have to say that you do have to sort out the money. So, it's like you have it's really important to have your passions and then also to fit them, I guess, into real world scenarios. So, the other thing that I do a lot of, illustration and I do a lot of animation, and it comes together in quite unexpected ways. So for instance, I did this book for Humayun's tomb in Delhi. One of the illustration projects that I did, that's my style. I do watercolor illustrations. They're also done by hand, incidentally. And this is something I did for a heritage app for marketing it. Again, it's watercolors, but what tends to happen is people will see what I do in terms of illustration, and they perceive a style and they would like it for their animation. So then they'll ask me to do something, but they would like it to look like I've drawn it. So tons of marker board animation. You must have all seen a lot of that. Little books and the film goes with it. I did a lot of work for INTAC, the Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage, for HEX, for their Heritage Education Division, and I make films for them as well. That's what it looks like, the film. So, that's the illustration you can see. And my client liked the kids, and she said, could we have those kids? And so she did. And it's really, it's quite exciting. It's nice and it's fun to do. These are some other illustrations. Occasionally these days, even picture books have promos to go with them, or people want to use the characters in them for something or the other, so they do get animated as well. I have a confession to make. I'm a terrible character animator. So, those walk cycles, the left leg, right leg, yeah, my God. So I found myself, so now these days they'll say, Anita, why don't you art direct it? And that's great. Which takes me to the next place I was going, which is that you don't need to have all the skills yourself. I suspect you need to have more the vision. You will, you can hire the skills, you can hire or you can collaborate with people who have the skills that you're searching for on projects. And increasingly, I think that's how it's being done. You will get a project budget, and in that budget, I can decide who I'm going to be hiring and for what. And I also find that the thing of collaboration goes beyond my own work. So if I'm making a film for a site, I might also be, working with the person who's doing an app there or doing something else there, working with them in parallel on the content or advising on it. Yeah, this is just for fun, by the way. This is a zebra that I made recently for HarperCollins. And yeah, we did animate him. There he is. But yeah, recently, I think the most sort of significantly different thing that I did was that I started doing work for people who wanted medical animation. It's a really expanding field. And actually, it's not just those little explainers that you see. You have people who need animation for instance, to explain procedures to patients, or even to teach medical students to do all sorts of different things. So last year I did a bunch of things for UNESCO MGIEP, and that project was about dealing with mental trauma. So it involved a whole lot of modeling the body and modeling nervous systems and modeling all sorts of stuff. And initially I said, can I do this? I don't know this, but it's again, it is just collaboration. You have to collaborate. So you have to sort of find a way to work with people, and it's so rewarding. It's so lovely, and such an enriching experience. It is, I think, extraordinarily important, therefore, to figure out where you want to be and what you want to do. Which industry do you want to be in? And where do you think that you would like to spend your time as an animator, not just for a month or two? You guys have done internships, and I'm sure you would have come away with your thoughts at the end of those internships about whether do I want to do this for years, or do I want to do this for years, you know? It's nice to find a good fit, and it's something you really have to work at professionally. And that's about it. So I would say my big things, my ways of thinking through the future, the first would be whether or not you have a job or you have a kind of clear sense of what it is exactly. I would say it's really important to experiment. It's really important to see what stories you come up with. It's really important to have that life of the mind that's yours. And if you put it on, you put it on social media platforms, you tell people about it, strangely people will look at it and ask you to even do it commercially. You know, it feeds back. It's really important to think beyond being a kind of a technician. It's really important to really be that storyteller, I think, along with mastering the software that you do. So that's the first one, to explore, to experiment, and to have stuff that you do for yourself. The second thing I really think is to, is to kind of really look at the industries out there that are using animation, the different contexts, and go and examine them. I think it's amazing that you have more than one internship, because that means you can go to more than one place and figure out what you liked or didn't like. Yeah? And I would say that's a great opportunity. Yeah? So we all want to be happy. We all want to be, we all want to have money. So we all want to know where we can rise, the people we want to work with, and it really needs to be addressed. So increasingly, that means you need to have, I think, an interdisciplinary approach to doing that. And my third insight would be collaboration. Yeah? You have to work with people. And if you have that opportunity while you're students, really do it. It's something to do. So, yeah, I think I'm done. Yeah? Sorry.
Hello ma'am, this is Aditi Mahanti from UG second year. So I had two questions for you. First of all, as an animator, as a designer, the most important thing in our industry can be the portfolio.
Yeah.
So as an artist, when we are asked to put the best out of a lot of things, we have a lot of variety when it comes like being an artist. So what will include a good portfolio, as in we have to include a lot of variety of things, or we have to find a particular, like every artist has their own particular style. So is it more important to have a variety or follow a particular style which will speak more about, like, which will describe yourself in its like own portfolio?
I think work to your strengths. So if you feel that you do something really well, you could, you put that in, you put in one thing, two things, three things. If you feel that is really what you do extremely well and you enjoy doing, yeah, you have to seek out the work that you want. So put in your portfolio the kinds of projects, maybe even projects that don't exist that you want, yeah? That's one good thing. The second thing I feel is when you show moving image work, right, it has to be more than a rendering. So if something's happening, even if it's the smallest gag, like if you have a character, like rather than saying I model the character and the character is standing, if the character is doing something, then I know you can make the character do something. And that's really valuable. So even if it's a small gag, even if there's something small and narrative happening, it really works for you. Yeah, that I would say is important. Yeah, the question of, it's about you personally. So if there are three things and you yourself feel I'd like maybe to explore this realm of things, put that realm in your portfolio. But maybe if you feel I do 3D, this is what I do, then I would say stick to that. Just think about what you want to be hired to do. Because if you put some random thing in your portfolio and you get hired to do that random thing, then you've had it.
Yes, ma'am.
No?
Yes, ma'am.
So, yeah.
So my second question is, what is the most underrated practice you would advise to me, like as a future animator, which would help me in future?
What is what? The most?
The most like underrated practice, because we all know that for like a 3D animator or something, sketching or drawing every day, building up characters is the most, like, a certain thing that will just have your creative juices flowing all around day being an animator.
Oh, I don't know. I was told to sketch every day, I never did. And then when I did, I had this like drawing person who taught me drawing who said, you go draw hands and feet. He said, if you do 150 hands and feet, Anita, your hands and feet look like cauliflower right now. They'll improve. I did also. In those days, I used to like work like some maniac. I did the 150, still they look like that really bad. Wrong hands and wrong feet. So I don't know about, I think you need to find, again, you have to determine the discipline, the ritual that is for you. So it's quite a personal thing. If you feel that, sketching is helpful to you, then I would say yes. If you find that if you find that it's more productive for you and your practice to maybe, to collaborate with an actor and try and do rotoscopy, that's a yes. So you have to be the determinant of that one.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah?
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Andrew. So I'm sure there have been instances where, say, you've made an illustration or an animated video and the client did not approve of it. So as an artist, like, it is very demotivating for me. Like, I have to hear, you have to do this and that. So it gets very demotivating. So how do you deal with these kind of situations as an artist?
I watch Netflix. I have a hard disk which has this massive folder called Pitch Graveyard. Yeah, I think for everything that gets a yes, there are at least 5 no's. And then of course there's Netflix. If you supplement that with Swiggy, it's a real fix.
So eating is going to help me get motivated.
But jokes aside, if it's a client, you have to change it. I think you just, you have to sort of, you have to be able to do it. Most people, I think if you have a distinctive style, will then know what your style is and they'll hire you for that style, right? So nobody will hire me to do character 3D animation. If they come to me, they kind of know what they're getting. And within that realm, then they will ask me to make changes, and yes, I will make them. Yeah, but it works if you have a style. See, because whatever it is, it won't be undoable. if people have a good sense of what it is that you do and it's quite distinct and they've come to you for a reason, then you'll be able to work within that framework, right? So it's very important, I think, to be able to, even with a software, to have a certain style, something that makes it look like you made it. It shouldn't just look like Maya made it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, ma'am. This is Richa Bharti from UG second year.
Yeah.
And as I have my keen interest in animation and graphics, so I always come up with this thought that even professionals need to come up with every time a new thing so that they can survive in the industry and in the market. And even though from a freelancing work to working for a company, we required a lot of experience. So how could be a fresher come up with the industry and can survive in the industry? So what are the follow-up and what are the things that you would like to mention for a freshers?
The industry is the best place to learn. So if I were to do it again, I would say it is the best thing to do is to go and work and really have your skills refined and understand workflows and timelines and so on before you do freelance. It gives you a sense of what clients need, it gives you a sense of what expectations are, it gives you a sense of what trends are out there and what people would like to see. So as a fresher, I would say, if you join, you could just have to learn from what the processes are, and you have to be very alive to them. But it's a good question. I don't think, I think it's really good to do it in that order, to do industry and then maybe if you want to do something else.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am. My name is Anish Mahapatra, UG first year student. Ma'am, like you said that sometimes you draw using your hands, sometimes you draw using the softwares. So like I have never been a good painter. I'm not an artist, but is it only enough to having knowledge regarding the softwares?
No, I mean it's how you use it. So of course you have to know it if you're using it, and then I think you have to get to stage 2. It's like version 1 of yourself is when you can do all the tools, and then you have to reach the point where it becomes something that people look at. It looks like you've made it. So I think you have to know the software and you have to kind of make it your own. Yeah, it's a hard ask, but it's good. It's a good thing to aim for.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Myself, Shravani, a student of UG from Century University of Technology and Management. The main question I was trying to ask you is there is a vast advantage in the filmmaking of animation. Every simple to simple thing is shown through animation font. So do you think these changes is growing to be something bigger, like it can change the point of view or the scenario of making filmmaking?
I think it already is. Absolutely. The things that we can't see, the places the camera cannot go, we are using animation to depict those possibilities, right? More and more. We can't imagine going and seeing certain sorts of films without special effects, without environments that were created digitally. It's expanding, and as I'm saying, in ways that were, that were kind of in domains that it wasn't before. So if you're in an architect's office, you're showing kind of fly-throughs in space, or you're creating short films for that, or if you're even in the medical profession, you're using modeling, or as I was saying, if even to sort of in heritage and cultural scenarios, you could use animation, or there are so many different ways. It's absolutely growing. I think that's why it's important to know what you want to do, because there are so many choices.
Ma'am, after a few generations or upcoming years, the animation movies only play a viral role or a virtual role rather than any other movies?
That I don't know. I think I'm very interested in this business of those like bots, those virtual actors, AI. They creep me out currently, but I get the feeling that, there's that uncanny valley problem. But I get the feeling that done right, they will be really compelling actors at some point.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Prachuja Monte. I'm in grade 12 from KIT International School. As you said that you really liked drawing and doing art, you found that spark while doing that. But since the fact that given that there's so many things that I like, there's vast opportunities out there for me, and for like there are boards, and then you have to give exams, and the pressures of giving entrances for there's a lot of things.
Yeah.
So my question is, how do I know what I like? Like there's so many things out there which I feel like I don't know if I should do this or do that. So how do I know what is my interest and where my passion lies?
Well, I have to say I totally hear you. There is too much out there, really, and it's like so many distractions also, no? Like games and social media and so much to keep track of. I hear you. I get the feeling it's really unfortunate, but you just have to put in a lot of work. It's really in the making. If you want, you have to try something out and then try it again and again and see whether it's for you. So I don't know that there's a shortcut to that. But on the bright side, even if you like many different things, there are ways now to bring them together in your practice. So, they could be what really kind of make your work distinct. If you really like sound design and you really like, you like certain kind of animation or creating certain sorts of spaces, or, you could bring those together. So it's amazing because the technology is so much more accessible now. It's easier to make. It's just so much more kind of user-friendly. It's so much quicker. So really, if you're a student, I think that's just such valuable time. You should just totally make and make and make, and you will find the answer in that process.
Thank you, Mom.
Thanks.
A very good afternoon, ma'am. I am Adya Arunima of grade 12 Humanities, KIT International School. I have a question. As an artist, how do you deal with creative blocks?
How do you deal with creative blocks? I have a sketchbook actually, so I have the opposite problem. Okay, it's not a cool thing to say, but I think it should be said. I have 2 kids, so basically I have very little time in life to do whatever I need to do, and so I have to really do a lot of time management. But I find that there's nothing better than a sketchbook, and somehow, a phone doesn't quite do it. So you need to scribble, you need to put down your thoughts, and it's really valuable. I don't know, you must have been told to do that now, and everybody sort of sagely nods their head and says, yes, ma'am, we'll do it, but it's actually a very good thing to do. And you'll find that over time, when you do have a block, you'll discover the ideas you had last month or the month before, or the kernel of something that struck you, and you can build on it.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
As we come to the end of such an inspiring and rich session, I would like to thank Ms. Anita Balachandran for taking time out of her busy schedule to help us gain priceless knowledge and broaden our perspectives. It was truly an honor to host you, ma'am, and we surely look forward to many such interactions in future. And last but not the least, I would like to thank our audience for such a patient hearing. We would now disperse for lunch. Meet you at 2 o'clock sharp. Thank you.